But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this. This is hilarious. So everybody will remember a few days ago, we pulled a short clip of Kyle basically talking about how a ton of people who used to be lefty commentators, new left media commentators, have jumped the shark. Basically, now they're just on the Bernie bro to Trump MAGA pipeline. He talked about RFK endorsing Trump. He talked about Tulsi Gabbard endorsing Trump. We drew the comparison to Jimmy when Jimmy said that Donald Trump was the new left, new anti-war candidate, all that stupid shit. And Jimmy obviously tuned in. He couldn't help himself but see the Vanguard video and say, yeah, I have to hear these fellas absolutely fillet me and rake me over the coals, because I think he has to look to us for inspiration. He's like, wow, this is what it's like to be truly carefree on the mic. This is what it's like to be able to spit from the hip, to be able to just go out there and free form it. Because guess what, guys? I don't look at notes. I don't look at a script, and I don't have any writers behind the scenes to tell me how to be funny. Okay? Jimmy has to go up there and LARP being a bad late night recycled talk show host because he can't even free form it. He's that bad at his job. Okay? He has to go out there and read corny, dead in the water jokes to people who only clap like seals because they've seen him on YouTube before. How embarrassing. Okay, I'd rather be a washed up TV sitcom actor that has to sign autographs at Comic-Con for my paychecks and dinner. I mean, truly, it's the bottom of the barrel in show business. But anyway, that's where Jimmy is. And you know what's crazy? Matt Taibbi's there with him, dude. They're both just hanging out at rock bottom together, two old drunks.
Yep. So, as Zach said, Jimmy dropped this video a couple hours ago, actually. Here we see the thumbnail. Kyle Kulinski's public humiliation. Kyle Kulinski's transition to shitlib 100% complete with Matt Taibbi. And it's pretty funny because Kyle actually, out of everyone in this space, out of all the commentators we talk about, I would actually say I would give him credit for being the most consistent of all of them, of all the hosts. And I don't just say that because I happen to agree with the guy a significant amount of the time. I'm just talking about like on a literal mathematical basis. If you measured people and how their opinions and approach and perspective changed over the years, Kyle's been remarkably consistent. Obviously, he's adjusted and evolved here or there. But generally, when you tune into Kyle Kulinski today, it is still secular talk. The same secular talk that it was back in the Bernie era, which is funny, again, because Jimmy's video here says, you know, Kyle Kulinski's public humiliation is complete or whatever. But again, if Jimmy Dore was the modern day Jimmy Dore, the current day Jimmy Dore, he would have said the same exact thing about the 2016 Kyle Kulinski, who he was friends with at the time. You don't think that guy would have been called a shitlib, you know, DNC propagandist by the current day Jimmy Dore? Obviously, he would have been. You know who else Jimmy Dore would say that about? The 2016 Bernie Sanders. The 2016 Bernie Sanders that Jimmy Dore supported at the time and built his entire career and channel being a fanboy of. If that same guy emerged today, Jimmy Dore wouldn't take that person seriously. They would call anyone who supports them a, you know, shitlib and a sheep herder and an establishment sellout and all this stuff. It's completely obvious that Jimmy's the one who's shifted, that Jimmy's the one who's literally done a complete 180. He proved the existence of horseshoe theory over the last 8 years. That's what people have been saying, going from Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump. If you guys forgot, Bernie Sanders is on the far left of the political spectrum. Donald Trump, he's on all the way on the other side of the map, over on the far right. So that's what you call an ideological shift, going from the far left to the far right, not being in the exact same place you were, which is being a progressive Democrat willing to support and vote for progressive Democrats. How is that any different? I don't even understand. Before we get into the video, on its face, it's obviously just so dumb and inaccurate. Well, with that being said, let's take a look at the video in question. The text itself, Matt Taibbi and Jimmy Dore teaming up.
Most recently, I was included in a video with you and Tulsi and Russell Brand by Kyle Kulinski. And
Did you really?
So yeah, so I want to show you, first of all, our friend, just to remind you who Kyle Kulinski is. Well, first of all, I'll show you this. Here it is.
High-profile examples of what you'd call the Bernie to Trump pipeline. Tulsi Gabbard is a great example.
RFK Jr. is a great example. He endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016. I don't know if he did in 2020 in the primary, but he did in 2016. He, of course, endorsed Trump this time around. Then, of course, you have some high-profile media figures who have effectively gone from Bernie Sanders back in the day to Donald Trump now. People that come to mind, Jimmy Dore, Matt Taibbi.
So,
LOL. So for one, this is basically they ripped off our show, Gavin. They ripped off our show. That's what I'm realizing. I'm realizing that through all the success that Matt Taibbi and Jimmy Dore have had throughout their entire careers, how many books has Matt Taibbi sold that I've read, that you've read? This man's traveled all around the world, but he was like, you know what I really would rather do? I would rather do what this guy and his homie do in the spare bedroom of his townhouse every day, where they get to react to news clips. We're going to call out our least favorite commentators and we're going to gossip about it like these two dudes who don't like, it's hilarious. It's pathetic. It's sad. They're trying to steal our beat. They're trying to eat our breakfast. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Also, like, Kyle's so freaking nice. He didn't even diss them in that clip. The clip they played, he just says, like, yeah, there's a handful of commentators that, you know, I remember 8 years ago they were with us over here on the left. Doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. Now I see them supporting Trump. That's basically all Kyle said. But Jimmy's so defensive because, again, he knows what he's doing. He knows he's a grifter. He knows he's preying on the dumbest possible Americans, poisoning their mind with, you know, Republican propaganda at best, medical misinformation that could kill them at worst. He knows all of this stuff. It's weighing on him every night, right? That's why he had to stop smoking pot. You can't smoke pot if you enter with a impure karmic debt or whatever, right? Or else it'll make you paranoid, right? So he had to quit smoking pot. He is eating away at him, bro. And Kyle doesn't even have to diss him that hard. Kyle doesn't even have to say anything that mean. And Jimmy melts down and has to call up his buddy, Matt Taibbi, to come out here and make this like 15-minute long video in response.
They're so fragile is what it is. You take these two guys, they've got plenty of cash, they can go anywhere they want, they can do whatever they want, but they know deep down in their hearts that they're a parody of themselves. Guys, I remember 2016 like it was yesterday. Guys, I remember I had like half course load senior year, second semester. That was when the election was really heating up. That would have been January to May 2016. I was spending a ton of time in my high school newspaper room. I was a subscriber to Rolling Stone magazine, right? So I was reading in real time all of the insane clown president. Will you push that back a little bit because it's getting into the frame? And there we go, perfect. And Matt Taibbi roasted. He lampooned the Republican Party. He made a mockery of them. And of course, he savaged Hillary Clinton too. But there is not a person on earth who can objectively read the tone, the style, the political positioning of Matt Taibbi in 2016 as he's writing for Rolling Stone magazine, and modern Matt Taibbi post Twitter files, post getting paid off to do PR for Elon Musk. That was humiliating. And after that, nobody on the left would ever take Matt Taibbi seriously again. Nobody, after he went on MSNBC, the Mehdi Hassan Peacock show, and just got absolutely humiliated. He literally threw a hissy fit on Twitter to Mehdi Hassan about how he should have him on the show instead of criticize him for just calling him out on Twitter. And Mehdi Hassan had called him out for not prioritizing the Twitter of the free speech suppression that was occurring in India at the behest of Modi and his fascist fucking government over there. Matt Taibbi was like, I don't know what you're talking about. As soon as he was confronted live on air, it was humiliating. After that, it was all down there. There was no backpedaling, okay? Because even people like Brianna Joy Gray, who will give you every opportunity to, you know, flirt with the right.
And by the way, just, you know, given everything that's happened with Twitter and even the last like few months, has anything aged worse than the Twitter files and what a bombshell it supposedly was? As I mentioned, bro, like as bad as the pre-Elon Musk Twitter was, it was downright like perfect. It looks like a perfect social media engine in comparison to what we currently now know as X, formerly Twitter. Again, all of these supposed bombshells in the Twitter files look like nothing.
Let me just remind you of who Kyle Kulinski is. Kyle Kulinski is a guy who sided with Big Pharma during COVID. Kyle Kulinski.
LOL. He told you to listen to your doctor that's siding with Big Pharma only if you're idiot.
He's a guy who sided with the military-industrial complex during the Ukraine war. Kyle Kulinski,
Which is just a bold-faced lie. It's a bold-faced lie that Kyle supported the military-industrial complex during the Ukraine war. He consistently opposed it. He consistently opposed sending more munitions over there. That's just 100% not true. And you can tell that Jimmy doesn't do any of his own homework and that he just reads the lies that his little monkey or parasite channels always regurgitate back to him, like the do dissidents, little bottom feeders.
Yeah. Also, like if anyone in this conversation was at all pro-war on either side, it was obviously Jimmy and his ilk. They were the ones doing propaganda for Putin and doing apologetics constantly for Russia, saying that they had every right to be doing this defensive military operation and shit like that. Kyle, at least from what I remember, he never advocated for arming Ukraine. He's always talked warned about the dangers of sending unlimited weapons to Ukraine, a blank check approach to the situation. He's always been incredibly critical of that. He's always, been incredibly fearful about the possibility.
He's an isolationist leftist.
Yeah, exactly. He's very much so. He has very isolationist tendencies. He's always warned about the possibilities of nuclear war that could happen if this regional conflict explodes into a real hot war between America and Russia. This is just complete BS. Maybe at one point he was like, I feel bad for the people of Ukraine. Like, I think that Ukraine is more in the right than Russia. Like, I don't think Putin has the right to be doing this. Maybe
like everybody with fucking common sense, by the way, right? Nobody deserves to be occupied, by the way. And the same people who will say that shit, like, what do you expect? Okay, then I hope you want your home to get bombed to smithereens, because everybody who's an American on occupied land, under your same fucking criteria you just applied to the Ukrainians, we all deserve to be rounded up and slaughtered. Okay, because our government's done a lot more evil than Russia.
And by the way,
or Ukraine has.
And by the way, our line on this entire conflict has always been that neither side is good, right? It's not good versus evil. Our entire commentary is basically boiled down to both NATO and the Putin government are both bad.
We're not in kindergarten.
Yeah, you can't be anti-war and pro-NATO. You also can't be anti-war and pro-Putin, which is what Jimmy Dore and his ilk are either way.
I thought, not to cite our, hero and main man, Jesse Ventura, too often. Okay. But one of the things that always, inspired me about him was he went to Russia. He wasn't afraid to meet with, Putin. He wasn't afraid to go to the dinner with Putin. But the second that the Ukraine war happened, he was like, I'm not taking money from a warring, invading country like RT America, or for RT through RT America. He was like, I don't care if they ban RT or not. I'm not working for them because I can be opposed to what they're doing. And I can also stand opposed to the, fanning of the flames by NATO, expanding beyond, the agreed upon line, which they'd already done multiple times. They didn't want any countries that bordered Russia to be in NATO. NATO is kind of irrelevant. We've always had a very nuanced take on this. The problem is there is absolutely no nuance when you're dealing with the fringe dummies that we're talking about right now with Jimmy Dore, Matt Taibbi, the folks that feed off of them, like little fucking algae eaters.
Also, by the way, do you know what show you're watching, Valerie? Like, this is literally what we do. We respond to these sort of clips and yeah, like what do you think you're watching? Is this the first time you've tuned into a Vanguard?
Valerie's gone. Valerie is a hater. Sorry, Valerie. Valerie thought this was...
Kyle is far too serious to spend his time reacting to this kind of crap.
I already told you this was the gutter guard. Bye, Valerie. Hate on somebody else's channel. We know you'll still watch in silence. All right, let's keep
He's
going.
a guy who's turned his back on every principle he ever had when he was a Bernie supporter. He's gone from being a Bernie supporter to a supporter of the military-industrial complex, big pharma, and corruption inside the Democratic Party. He's supporting Kamala Harris, who's right now funding and committed to funding the slaughter of the Palestinian people. So there's no red line for him. He's become the exact thing. And just to prove that he's become the thing that he...
Oh yeah. I'm sure that if there wasn't the genocide going on, then Jimmy would not have this commentary. I'm sure, he would be like, oh, I respectfully disagree with my colleague Kyle, who takes a different strategic approach to, getting left-wing ideas implemented in our government. I see what he thinks, but I happen to disagree. No, yeah, obviously he would have the exact same commentary, regardless of whether or not the situation in the Middle East was unfolding You know what I'm saying? Like they would pick something else. They would talk about Russia. They would talk about, this is not their red line. They keep saying, oh, this is your red line. Bitch, it's not your fucking red line. You would have the exact same position regardless of this, regardless of whether or not it was happening. If anything, you like that it's happening because it makes it easier for you to virtue signal at people that still just want to live under a non-fascist country.
Yeah, that's what's really sick about it. That's what's really not good. I was talking about what Peyton said, right? How the politics is all about, oh, I don't have to feel bad about this, right? I can just admonish you about it. I get to watch from the sidelines as I reap every single ounce in benefit. Hey, Jimmy, are you still using computer chips? What are you broadcasting through? Is genocide in the Congo not a red line for you? Oh, no, you're just a fucking idiot. You don't understand nuance and you can't read, okay? And your producers haven't told you that that's a good way to stick it to the left and make them look unserious right now. It is absolutely abhorrent. It is so immoral. It is so low to try and profit off of what's happening in Gaza in the way that Jimmy is, to try and uplift yourself and make yourself seem sanctimonious as you do nothing. Jimmy hasn't been doing fundraisers. Jimmy hasn't even led in any initiatives. Like, people will roast Hassan. Jimmy would probably roast Hassan and say that, oh, he calls himself a socialist, but he lives in a big house, even though Jimmy himself lives in a big house, right? But at least Hassan has fundraised like a motherfucker for victims of the aftermath of 10/7. You don't even know how to describe it 11 months on. It's a genocide, but people have become so desensitized to that word and people just throw it around. They use it like a cudgel, like a sword, like a baton. Genocide, genocide, genocide. It's almost lost the weight, which is so fucking sad and so fucking wrong, guys, that you feel like you could just be like, I'm saying no to genocide. That doesn't stop it, you guys.
Yep.
So start reckoning with the fact that you don't have a solution, and that just like me and just like Gavin, our government is still going to fucking do it regardless of what you do. Okay. And yes, you do have to reckon with it because you are human, and otherwise you will lose your soul.
Yep. And again, I mean, who is Jimmy Dore supporting in this election? Let's remind everyone. Trump is now way to the left of warmongering Kamala. He's campaigning as anti-war. I'm sorry, but I don't think there's a clip of Kyle Kulinski or a tweet of Kyle Kulinski saying that Kamala Harris and the Democrats are anti-war. That does not exist. Kyle's calculation is that, yes, the Democratic Party, as represented by Harris Walls, they are the lesser of two evils. They are, it's better. They're in charge than Trump and Vance. That's his position. He's not cheerleading. He's not doing propaganda. He's a political commentator who's giving his commentary. He's an opinion commentator who's giving his opinion. But he's not cheerleading and he's not doing propaganda. That's what you're doing. Just like with every Jimmy Dore segment, every accusation is a confession and it's all just projection. He's the one saying that the Republicans are anti-war. He's saying that Donald Trump is anti-war when we both know that Trump would be even worse for Gaza than the Democrats. We know that. And Jimmy Dore's out here gaslighting everyone, pretending that the Republican Party is now the anti-war party and the anti-censorship party. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is their biggest donor.
Gavin, do you want to take in a little more of this video? Let's let this clip
pretends he used to hate
for everybody, because it just gets more embarrassing, more sad, and more pathetic for Jimmy. Because what's hilarious, guys, again, I hate to reiterate this because it seems mean, nasty, and hateful, but that's what Jimmy deserves right now. He deserves us to be a little mean, nasty, and hateful to him. He's such an unhappy guy. And then you have Kyle over here, who's such a genuinely happy guy. He actually loves his life. And Jimmy is so full of hatred and misery and cope and just seething bad energy, karmic negativity, everyone. And Matt Taibbi, he's a lot closer to Jimmy on that spectrum than Kyle and Krystal. And it's just pathetic. It's embarrassing.
I mean, just look at Kyle and Krystal. They look ethereal, sun-kissed, the soft white glow of the sun. And then, Jimmy Dore, drunken, looks like a piece of leather, piece of beef jerky, sitting in his studio, probably had a couple martinis. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
I'll play this guy. Turncoat Don put this together, and this is always fun to watch. Let's watch.
Former Soviet Union and other authoritarian, dictatorial regimes.
We're really talking about other people being dictatorial. And Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, as bad as Biden is, you guys are significantly worse, and it's not even close. The Democrats are just way better. They're just...
Kyle spitting right here. You have to be a deranged Fox News boomer for your audience to think anything other than that Kyle's just waxing right here.
Way better. They're a trillion times better than Republicans.
First of all, I'm very impressed with Krystal here because she's a successful working mom and still finds time to homeschool Kyle, which is nice.
These are the most boomer jokes ever. Even Matt Taibbi can barely haphazard a chuckle because he's like, wow, did you write that in advance? That was the best you could come up with, and you're a professional comedian.
Yeah. Plus, he's clearly just reading off of the same like Google Drive document that he had from the last time they did this segment. These are the same jokes. Literally, go back to the last Jimmy Dore roasting Kyle segment. Same jokes. He just pulled up the same Google Drive document.
But here we go.
And dye his hair, I guess.
Let's watch this. Now, this is going to be shocking to some.
Matt needs to just shut the fuck up and look pretty on this stream. Anytime he makes a contribution that's supposed to be a joke, he just falls flat on his face. It's hilarious. It's really embarrassing.
Some people.
Even a fake comedian like Jimmy Dore or Kurt Metzger is going to look like a fucking Richard Pryor compared to Matt Taibbi.
Well, maybe of someone who watches the show, but it's not shocking to me.
All right, so there's a lot I have to say in response to this. These kinds of criticisms from this guy, I honestly believe that these people usually overstate how bad Trump is, and they understate how bad Biden is. Well, you're more ideological.
These clips are entirely out of context, by the way, because that's the only way that Jimmy can make a point. He has to literally 100% out of context, years apart. He's telling you these clips are out of context, years apart. But he found some guy that always favorites him and says nice things about him on Twitter who made this little montage, and he wants to put it on his show because it makes Jimmy look cool and it makes Kyle look bad. What's funny also is they like to make videos like this about the Vanguard sometimes. You'll see the due dissidence guys that'll make these sometimes, and I'm like, LOL, dude, I've never tuned into a single episode of your show. But please keep sending hate watchers our way, and please hit the like button and the subscribe button, or at least the notification bell. Every hate watcher is a watcher. Please leave your long thoughts in the chat. One of you, two of you will get banned sacrificially, but go ahead and make another account. Try again tomorrow.
Yeah. I think there is one of these videos floating around out there featuring yours truly.
Oh yeah, it's from when we came after Aaron Matze because he was totally inconsistent with that General Douglas McGregor guy who's now speaking at the fucking right-wing rally. Yeah, we were 100% right. Another Vanguard take that aged like fine wine.
In agreement with Biden than you are in agreement with Trump. Well, actually, when it comes to the First Step Act, I agree with Trump on that. When it comes to pardoning Alice Johnson, I agree with Trump on that. When it comes to TPP, Trump's against it, Biden's for it. I agree with Trump on that.
Jimmy also thinks that Biden is still running for president, which is hilarious.
Yeah, and again, it's like, one time Kyle listed some of the things that he agreed with Trump on. That Kyle's never lied about that. He's always been honest about like giving credit where credit is due, even to someone like Donald Trump. I remember Kyle giving Trump credit for like normalizing relations with North Korea, going to meet with Kim Jong-un and saying that a Democrat probably wouldn't have done that. Kyle's not afraid to give credit where credit is due. This isn't a gotcha. All you're doing is proving that Kyle's way more consistent than you are, and that unlike Kyle, you would never give the same level of credit to a Democratic president or to a Democratic nominee. You would never give Kamala credit for picking a progressive VP like she did with Tim Walz. You would never give her credit for actually having a plan, unlike Trump, to deal with inflation. You know what I'm saying? Go down the list. Kyle actually will give credit where credit is due. But that doesn't make him a hypocrite.
No, this is also in hindsight super hilarious that they go.
That is hilarious. I would have done the same.
Also, remember when Corin came on our show and talked about how Jimmy was still really petty about how Kyle had to skip dinner with him one time? Man, this is the kind of grievances that we get to spill the beans on behind the show. That's why you tune into the Vanguard, the Drama Guard, the TMZ Guard, everybody. We're the bottom of the barrel. You can't go any lower than here.
I agree more with Trump on North Korea than I agree with Biden. I would need to be convinced that Biden would fight for at least one or two of my top 5 issues.
Okay, well, do you know what is hilarious about this, guys? I think that Kyle would say that the olive branch that he was desperate for Joe Biden to give out to the left was kind of satisfied when Tim Walz was made the VP. I think that's what a lot of people on the left said. They said they didn't expect to get anything, and when we were all like, fuck, dude, is it going to be Mark Kelly? Is it going to be Josh Shapiro? And then we were all fantasizing, literally drooling from our mouths at the thought of Tim Walz because he'd actually done some economically populist things. He'd actually embodied that Midwestern farmer populism that we'd all kind of fantasized about, that we'd really built up as a potential solution to unite the working class. Gavin and I, along with people like Kyle Kulinski, we thought, boy, that would be a real path to kind of reigniting some of the Bernie momentums, catch that lightning in a bottle once again. They embodied some of the same energies. Here's a guy that had actually passed some of these really robust policies we talked about. I think Kyle just decided, you know what, in contrast to Donald Trump, and a time where we can really once and for all put this guy away. I think that's another thing that a lot of people aren't talking about that makes me really confident that Donald Trump is going to lose this election, is that people are just ready for the conversation to not be about Donald Trump anymore. Gavin and I have gone our entire adult lives where every single political calculation that we've made as 18 plus voters has been in the backdrop of Donald Trump. It has been with Donald Trump being the elephant in the room, right? The looming threat, the parasite, the monkey on our shoulder, right? We have to get rid of that. And I think that's inspiring all of us to just be like, you know what, guys, let's see what the 21st century politics has moving forward beyond Donald Trump, beyond the Democrats constantly saying, we've got to stop the threat of Donald Trump.
Yep. And not just Donald Trump, but again, the entire insidious brand of Christian nationalism that him and his supporters represent. It's completely insidious. It needs to be banished. It needs to be rejected. And the Republican Party should have to deal with the fact that it was rejected and retool their message going forward. That's how politics should work. And again, that's basically the best thing we can really look forward to. That's the most we can look forward to on election night, is seeing that brand of Christian nationalist Republican politics get rejected on a really wide scale, in my opinion, at least. But yeah, let's watch a little bit more of this after they play this clip compilation. Matt Taibbi has quite a moment.
For all, free college, living wage, ending the wars, and UBI. The people who say Trump is a fascist and they think he's like, basically, we can't survive another 4 years of America with him. Yes. The country will survive 4 years with Trump. The country will survive 4 years with Joe Biden. Again, I think they understate how bad Biden.
Also, this Kyle video was recorded before Trump tried to stay in power illegally and steal the election. So clearly, at the time, Kyle was like, oh, it's, America will be fine regardless of a Democrat or Republican win. I don't know if he would even say that anymore. I actually don't think he would say that anymore. Now, I think he would say, regardless of your political disagreement with Republicans, they genuinely represent a threat to the democratic institution of America that is not represented by the Democratic Party. I genuinely believe he would say that. So again, you're just taking a clip from out of context from before a very relevant event, and from while Joe Biden was still the nominee. He's not anymore. It's a completely different field.
Yep, absolutely.
Biden is why. On so many core issues, he's against us. Me, at least. I can't speak for this guy. Joe Biden pushed for NAFTA. He repeatedly pushed for TPP. He's a supporter of the Iraq War. On all the pivotal issues of his time, he was wrong. So stop overstating how bad Trump is. The country's still going to exist in 4 years. And understating how bad Biden is.
I just can't get over how humiliating it is for Jimmy that he's reacting to this like Joe Biden is still the nominee.
I know.
That he's acting like this is a 1-for-1 stand-in, that he's not acting like a completely different person, that Joe Biden hasn't stepped down, decided not to pursue re-election, and that a new nominee at the Democratic National Convention was given the full party endorsement and selected of her very own vice president, who had his own political problems and, successes that he could nitpick if he wanted to, but instead he pretends that he's living. It's very Trumpian. It's very Trumpian. Donald Trump is also still trying to convince the electorate and his audience and his, worshipers, his fucking dullards that, still send him money and fawn over him. He's trying to convince them all that it's him versus Biden because he knows he's completely cooked if he's running against Kamala Harris. And you guys can point to some of these weird fringe polls, But I'm sorry, I don't know how to explain it to the people who don't understand. We'll have this conversation again in November when you see how right me and Gavin were, and then we'll kind of walk you through how our analysis worked, and we'll catch you up to speed. But because this country's elections are all decided on vibes, and because the traditional polling apparatus is not applicable in the digital age like it was in the days where people would respond to mail, pick up a landline, right? They've never been able to figure out how to get it right. So they've overcorrected for Donald Trump in the wake of 2016 when they all got humiliated. But that whole silent momentum for Trump isn't there anymore. So they're still overcorrecting for that when it simply doesn't exist. Now that silent momentum, as much as you guys want to hate it, it's actually with Kamala, and we'll see all of that bear out. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting, Gavin, that Jimmy is still hook, line, and sinker trying to sell exactly what Donald Trump is, which is that it's just him versus Joe Biden.
Because it's annoying. I just don't agree with the people who are like, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi, the country's not going to exist in 4 years. You're hyperbolic and you're ridiculous.
Oh! You got knocked the fuck out, man!
That was the most boomer shit I'd ever borne witness to. Also, in case it wasn't clear, Kamala will be president. Donald Trump will not be president ever again.
So,
Is this guy called us?
that guy?
Supporters? Can we swear in the show?
Yes.
Fuck him. What the fuck? That's so infuriating. God.
It's pretty. It's so he used to be exactly where we are, telling the truth objectively about the objective truth of the situation. We are.
Shit, fuck! I accidentally clicked too far back.
Oh, it's all good. We're basically done with this clip.
Yeah, he's so not smart. Objectively, it's objectively what's objective. He's trying to use all of those 10-cent words that you learn in the dictionary, right? But he doesn't know how to use them. It's kind of like I can't remember what exactly it was Nick Cruz was tweeting the other day. Oh yeah, he used exponentially when he absolutely did not know what exponentially means. I put it in our group chat because I thought it was hilarious. Anyway,
Yeah, so funny.
this opposition's not very stiff, guys. It's just that's who's gonna attract,
Yeah.
or that's who's gonna fall for Donald Trump's shtick in 2024. It's just a bunch of boomer dads that feel like society is eroding and things just aren't the way they once were. It's just that's what the politics of Matt Taibbi and Jimmy Dore are.
Yep. And I don't even know what they're really mad about Kyle over. Kyle just said he included them in the list of commentators who went from Bernie to Trump, but they don't even argue with that. They don't even say that Kyle was inaccurate, that's a smear. They don't even disagree that, yeah, they were Bernie and now they're Trump. And that's objectively the case, right? They're both Trump supporters. And even if, I don't know if Matt Taibbi has explicitly come out here and said, I support Donald Trump, but, take a poll of his subscribers, take a poll of who his current day readers or listeners or fans are. At least 75% of them are Republicans. I promise you. So that's who he's catering to. Again, what did Kyle even say that was incorrect? They never took issue with what he said. They just had to play a video of a bunch of out of context clips from 7 years ago to make their non-existent point.
Yeah, pretty embarrassing.